When my mother's casket was being lowered into the ground, my husband didn't hold my hand. Instead, he called my phone. Before I could even whisper that I was at the grave site, his voice boomed through the speaker, amplified for every single mourner to hear. "I don't care that your mom is dead. Put me first. Leave that stupid funeral right now, and come serve dinner to my family." Gasps echoed across the cemetery. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, not just from grief, but from sheer humiliation. But then, my quiet, soft-spoken father stepped forward. He took the phone from my trembling hands, looked me dead in the eye with a cold, unnatural calm, and whispered, "Let's give him exactly what he wants." My husband thought he was asserting his dominance, but he had no idea he had just signed away his entire comfortable life in under 60 seconds. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where toxic people learn the hard way that actions have consequences. Before we dive into today's story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with the city or country you're watching from so I can see how far our community reaches. My name is Clara, and at 31 years old, I thought I knew what a true marriage looked like. I believed in compromise, patience, and sticking by someone's side through thick and thin. But looking back, my life with Mark was never a partnership. It was a constant exercise in submission. Mark was the kind of man who needed to occupy every bit of oxygen in the room. From the moment we got married, he demanded total control over my time, my career, and my focus. If I wasn't prioritizing his every whim, I was labeled unsupportive. The real breaking point began 6 months ago when my mother was diagnosed with a sudden, aggressive illness. I moved back home temporarily to care for her during her final days. Instead of standing by me, Mark's resentment festered. He couldn't handle the fact that my attention was split, treating my dying mother as nothing more than a rival for his control. The sky above the cemetery was a dull, heavy gray on the day we laid my mother to rest. The air felt suffocatingly still as family and close friends gathered around the open plot, watching her polished wooden casket hover over the earth. Tears streamed down my cheeks, blurring my vision as the pastor read the final prayers. Suddenly, my phone began vibrating frantically inside my coat pocket. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't stop call after call. Fumbling through my purse for a handkerchief to wipe my eyes, my thumb accidentally struck the answer icon. Because my hands were shaking, I hit the speaker button without realizing it. Before I could even whisper that we were standing at the grave site, Mark's voice exploded through the phone, crisp and impossibly loud against the solemn silence. "I don't care that your mom is dead. Put me first. Leave that stupid funeral right now, and come serve dinner to my family." Gasps echoed across the crowd. Horrified eyes turned toward me. My blood ran cold, and shame burned in my chest. Before I could even process the cruelty, Mark barked, "Answer me," and slammed the phone down, leaving me surrounded by dead silence. I stood frozen, the silent crowd staring at me as hot tears of humiliation scorched my cheeks. But before I could sink into the earth from pure shame, a firm hand rested on my shoulder. It was my father, David. He didn't yell or throw a scene. Instead, Dad gently took the trembling phone from my hand. His eyes, usually so warm and gentle, were hardened like cold steel. He looked at me with an eerie, quiet calm, leaned in close, and whispered, "Let's give him exactly what he wants." In the quiet hours after the service, sitting in my childhood home, Dad finally opened up. He revealed that he had seen through Mark's arrogance from day one. Unbeknownst to Mark, his so-called booming logistics startup hadn't succeeded on his own merit. 5 years ago, Dad had quietly financed Mark's entire enterprise through business loans and backed it with our family trust. Mark had signed the funding agreements in such a rush to appear self-made that he never bothered to read the fine print. Attached to that capital was a strict clause. Any personal misconduct or breach of good faith would trigger an immediate total recall of all outstanding funds. Dad's legal team immediately went to work behind closed doors, but to ensure Mark didn't suspect a thing, we played his game. Instead of confronting him, I wiped away my tears, put on a mask of total compliance, and drove straight to our house just as he had demanded. When I walked through the front door, The living room was packed with his visiting relatives, laughing and drinking. Mark was lounging at the center of it all, looking like a king on his throne. As soon as he saw me, a smug, triumphant smirk spread across his face. He actually turned to his brother and boasted loud enough for everyone to hear. "See? You just have to show them who's boss. She knows her place." I didn't argue. I simply smiled, served their food, and poured their drinks, acting like the obedient wife he expected. But every time Mark took a sip of his wine, puffing his chest out in front of his family, he had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. At that exact moment, Dad's corporate attorneys were formally filing the paperwork to execute the default clause, initiating an emergency freeze on Mark's corporate credit and pulling the rug right out from under him. 3 days later, the trap snapped shut. Mark was sitting at the kitchen island, happily scrolling through luxury car listings, when a loud knock rattled the front door. I opened it to reveal 2 process servers alongside my father and his lead attorney. Mark strolled over, a patronizing smirk on his face, ready to demand what my father was doing on his property. But before he could open his mouth, Dad's lawyer handed him a thick stack of legal notices. As Mark scanned the pages, his smirk vanished, replaced by sheer, unadulterated terror. The documents detailed the immediate liquidation of his business assets, the freezing of his accounts, and an eviction notice for our home, which, as it turned out, was registered under my family's real estate trust. "You can't do this," Mark roared, his face turning beet red as he lunged toward my father. "I'm her husband. I have rights." Dad didn't even flinch. He calmly pulled out his phone, pressed play on an audio file, and let Mark's own cruel voice fill the foyer once again. "I don't care that your mom is dead. Put me first." Dad looked him dead in the eye and said, "You breached the trust terms, Mark. You wanted to be put first? Congratulations. You're the very first thing we're throwing out." The collapse of Mark's artificially constructed world was swift and merciless. Within 48 hours, his corporate credit cards were declined, his leased luxury sports car was repossessed right from the driveway, and his business partners ousted him the moment the family trust pulled its capital. The most satisfying part, however, was watching his own family turn on him. The moment Mark could no longer fund their lavish weekend get-togethers, pay for their expensive dinners, or offer them cushy jobs at his company, his relatives vanished into thin air. They didn't offer him a spare bedroom or a dime of support. They simply left him to drown in the chaos he created. Living in a cheap, rundown motel on the edge of town, Mark tried desperate measures to reach me. My phone was flooded with dozens of frantic text messages and tearful voicemails. The arrogant man who once screamed at me to obey him was now sobbing into his phone, begging for forgiveness and pledging to change. I didn't answer a single call. Instead, I had my attorney serve him with divorce papers, stripping away the last remaining thread connecting him to the life, wealth, and status he had so recklessly abused. With the divorce finalized and Mark firmly in my past, a quiet sense of peace finally returned to our home. Dad and I decided to honor Mom's memory by taking the long-overdue trip to Italy she had always dreamed of. Standing along the sunlit coast of Amalfi, feeling the warm breeze against my face, I realized just how far I had come from that heartbroken woman standing at the grave site. I learned a powerful lesson through all of this. True strength isn't about enduring mistreatment in silence. It's about having the courage to walk away from control and surround yourself with people who truly value you. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. If Clara's journey taught you never to let anyone walk over your dignity, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to BT Revenge Tales for more satisfying stories of justice, and click the video on your screen right now to check out another channel favorite. Until next time, take care.